Memorial Day, everybody. Welcome back to the Lisbon Panther podcast. This is our 11th episode and one of our last one ending out this year. I'm your guest host, Lana Knox. Remember, we are always looking for feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Our last episode was a shout out to moms on Mother's Day. Did you get a chance to listen? If not, you can still check out previous episodes on the Lisbon Panther YouTube page. This week we have some very special guests for this Memorial Day. But before we see who's visiting, it's time to get into the Panther Roundup. What's going on at Lisbon Regional School? This past week was a very busy week. We had Family Literacy Night where author David Martin came to share his books with family and friends. During recording, we haven't had this yet. Are any of you going?
Maybe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another big event this coming week was the high school trip to New York. Our next podcast will have information about that. A couple other field trips from this week were the 4th and 5th graders went bowling at the oldest bowling alley in New England. And the 6th graders went to the movies in Lancaster and the Littleton Historical Society. Also, the 1st graders are going to the Montreal Museum. One final thing that's going to happen this week was that the National Junior Honor Society and students in K through 6 are going to local cemeteries to put new flags in honor of Memorial Day and their service. And now, let's get back to today's episode. As I said, today's guests are very special, and it is because of Memorial Day that we invited them in. With us, we have 4 students, including me, and we each brought a guest who is a United States veteran. I would like our students to introduce themselves and their guests.
I brought my grandfather, Steve Robbins.
And you are?
And I am Tyler Hubbard.
I am Jake LaFond, and I brought my dad, Roland LaFond.
I am Grace Culvert, and I brought in Nick McNeil.
Let's start by asking each of the students what makes their guests so special to them.
What makes my dad special to me is everything he does and how he acts.
Thank you, Jake.
What makes Nick McNeil special to me is he's like a really close family friend, and he taught my brother karate.
The best part about my grandfather is that he's caring and he'll do anything to help people.
Now I'm going to let my classmates ask some questions for each of our veterans to answer.
My question is, what made you decide to enlist?
So, I had friends that were in the National Guard, and they seemed like they really enjoyed it a lot. And they asked me if I'd come and join with them. And I was actually a junior in high school when I enlisted. And I didn't have a job, and I knew that this paid. So I went down to the local armory and joined, and thinking that I was going to have a part-time job and join the military. None of my family had ever been in the military, so I really didn't know much about it. So I thought I'd give it a try.
Okay, well, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is, like my son said, Mr. LaFond, and like you've already heard, I too was I was in school, high school. I was a senior, and I had limited options. I knew that I wasn't going off to college. You somewhat need a rhyme and a reason, and at that time I really didn't have a reason, but some recruiters came to the school, and I was admired by their appearance and how they looked. And I started asking questions, and one thing led to another. I took a ASVAB test, and it kind of tells you exactly where you might do well, what kind of job you might have in the military. So after doing that and looking at my options, I decided that maybe the military would be a real good option for me, and I joined the military right out of high school.
Do you remember your first day of service?
Do I remember my first day of service? Yes. Well, let's see. I left New England on a bus and traveled to Logan Airport and got on a plane and flew to South Carolina. And I knew when I got off the plane that I wasn't going home for a while. There were people dressed in military uniforms, and they were moving us very quickly to get back on another bus where we traveled to Parris Island, South Carolina. And at first it was very scary, and I knew that I needed to stay focused in order to do the best that I could. And
So my first day was a little different because I did join the National Guard. So I actually didn't go to basic training until quite a bit after I joined. Quite a bit. I joined in November, and I didn't leave for basic training until after school got out in June. So my first days were at the Armory and meeting the people that I was going to serve quite a few years with, and we shot howitzers, and I got to learn a lot about what I was going to do before I actually had to go to basic training and do it. So a lot of great memories there.
What was the hardest part of being in the service? And then what was the best part of being in the service?
So the hardest part for me of being in the service was in 2004 when I deployed to go overseas and had to leave my family behind and went to Iraq. So I left my wife and my two daughters that were in high school at the time behind, and it was a lot of unknown. Had no idea where I was going or what I was doing, and never had been away from my family for potentially a year to go do something that I knew nothing about. So on to the best. I think the best for me was all the people that I met. You get a whole nother family in the military. It's a brotherhood that you don't build in the civilian life. And veterans are like a huge family, whether you ever met them or didn't. We will all do anything for each other at any time, and that's absolutely the best. We had a lot of good times. I got to see Mount Rushmore from a Chinook helicopter with the back open. There's some things like that we get to do.
That's pretty cool.
That were really cool, but nothing compares to that family that you build while you're in the military.
Just like you had mentioned that, I guess it's tough being deployed and being away from family, and I kind of struggle with that myself. And what was really hard for me was it seemed like there was always something that was going to happen, or I was always put somewhere where it was going to be tough and challenging. And did I have what it took, to complete it or to get it done? And I struggled with that a little bit. I struggled with a little bit of anxiety, so at times that was tough for me. And I guess the reward to that was being able to get over that hurdle. Some of the good stuff about the service, like you mentioned as well, the brotherhood. There are things that, some of the benefits that I reap now being in the military. I'm getting ready to purchase another home again. And the military, honors my service and helps me with that. The notoriety as well, there have been a lot of doors that have been open for me being in the military, having that background. So then that's been a big plus as well. I mean, I could go on and on about all the good things. There's a few bad things as well, but in general, it was very, very rewarding for me.
Do you have any special memories of your time in the service?
So I lots of them. Like I said, I got to see Mount Rushmore from a Chinook. That's pretty cool. We went to different places and trained and saw pieces of the country and of the world that I wouldn't have seen if I wasn't in the military. Again, back to the brotherhood. We used to get together and once a year we'd try to catch a football game or something. So, a group of us would get together. We'd go to Philadelphia for a game, or we'd go to New England for a game, or do something. So, there's just always good times if you look for them.
I would agree that being in the military, there are always good memories, sometimes bad memories. Returning home after being deployed, I was there are 3 divisions in the Marine Corps, one in North Carolina, one in California, and one in Okinawa, and I served in all 3 of them, and I was deployed quite a bit at each of them. So returning home, was a special thing, being with your family, and all the other things that you do while you're in the military is something that I reflect on all the time. So a lot of special things that I'll never forget.
Okay, last question for today. Could you tell us what Memorial Day means to you?
Memorial Day to me is to remember our brothers and sisters that didn't come home, that sacrificed their lives for a great country, so that we could all be here free, so you guys could have education, so we could all do what we want in the greatest country in the world.
Boy, it's tough to follow that. It's definitely a day of remembrance, and for those that were in the service that have the ultimate sacrifice, they've died. So we reflect on that, and those that have served in the military as well. And like you said, it's a federal holiday, so we celebrate that, and I would hope that it's a special day for all Americans.
Thank you, everyone, for coming and talking with us today. We hope everyone takes a little time, not only on Memorial Day, but every day, to honor our United States veterans. Next week's episode, we will have high school students tell us about their trip to New York City. Hope you can listen in, and don't forget to leave us a comment about the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.